Good morning, and this is our second Ask the Executive Team Origin Q&A session. Unfortunately, one of our executive team, Gloria Yang, can't be with us this morning, but I have got the other three members of the team. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Thanks, Julie. I'm Carol Carter, I'm Chief Executive.
Hi, I'm Carol Williams and I'm Director of Operations.
And I'm Gareth Jones, I'm Director of Development and Assets.
Okay, great, thank you. So again, we had around 200 questions come in via the SurveyMonkey link that we sent out to everybody. And again, I've grouped them into themes. So if you sent us an individual question and left your contact details, we will be getting back to you individually. Okay, so the first sort of theme again is around coronavirus. So are Origin offering any payment holidays?
So it's really important to us that we are able to provide support to residents. We know that a lot of people are struggling financially, and we want to make sure that any debt is minimised from their individual point of view, and that they are able to sustain their tenancy in the long term. Everybody's circumstances are different. We do have a financial support service as part of our income team, so I would really encourage anybody that is finding things hard in terms of meeting their financial commitments to contact us straight away, and then we can talk about the options that are available to maximise your income and talk about how we can make arrangements with you so that we can, as I say, minimise that debt and keep things sustained over the longer term. So we're not offering general payment holidays because that isn't appropriate for everybody, but we are very much taking into account people's individual circumstances and really would encourage you to get in touch.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question, a couple of people mentioned this actually. Pets have helped people with their mental health. What is our pets policy?
So yes, we do have a pets policy, and within that policy we do take regard to people that may need to have pets for different reasons, so maybe for guide dogs or assistant dogs and things like that. But I think we are all very acutely aware of how pets do help people with mental health, and I think it's a really good time for us to actually review our pets policy and have a really good think about what we want to include in that. So I think I'd like to put that on the agenda now for us to review during the coming few months this year, do some sort of survey with our residents to ask, what do you think we should put into our policy? How should it look and feel for everybody? And then for us to review that and take that through the processes we do internally to have a new policy that we would share with everybody. But it's a really good question, a really good time for us to really think about reviewing it and see where we move from here.
Okay, great, thank you. Quite a few sort of comments on this area. We've seen an increase in antisocial behaviour. What are you doing about it?
Yeah, and we have had a huge increase in antisocial behaviour, particularly within inner London area. So we've seen more than 100% increase in the number of cases coming through to us. In our outer London areas, we haven't really seen the same increase at all. Most of that has been around noise within properties. I think we all are acutely aware that at the minute everybody's at home. We're not used to our neighbours being at home with us, so we are experiencing more noise, and it's something that we hope that each of our residents will be able to work with each other to resolve, and I do know that residents are being really tolerant of one another and understanding of the impacts of children not being at school and people who maybe are still working during the daytime and things like that. But where we are getting cases and where we are getting involved in those, we are doing it the same way as we would do, albeit that we're not able to visit as often or as much as we would have been so. But we're contacting everyone concerned, we're explaining to everybody what they can do, what they can't do. We're following that up in writing where we need to. And what we're really pleased to see is that whilst we have had an increase in the number of cases coming through, we've also been able to close as many that are coming through to us by having those conversations. So I think my plea to everyone is just remember that we're all living really on top of one another at the minute. Be mindful of that, and we will deal with any queries that people have, but what's really reassuring is that people are reacting to it and taking steps themselves to make sure it isn't an impact.
Okay, great, thank you. Another one for you, Carol.
Oh, thank
What
you.
estate cleaning services have you offered and what has been included?
So we have done our utmost to ensure that we have kept everything the same before lockdown, since before lockdown. There's been a slight change in a couple of areas, but that's now all back to normal, and we're continuing to clean as we always did. What we've also done is asked our cleaning services to pay particular attention to those areas that there might be more contact with, so things like door entry systems, the lift buttons, the handrails. So we are spending more time cleaning those for our residents. But overall, what I'd say is the service has continued throughout this period.
Okay, great.
Just to add that, if anybody is experiencing a decline in service, then just let us know and we'll get on to that. But also just a reminder to maintain social distance from our staff as well, so that they can remain safe.
Okay, and then so what services are we now offering for our residents?
So there was probably, within the operations area, there was probably just one service that had to stop through the lockdown period, and that was lettings of our properties. But 2 weeks ago, we got the go-ahead from government that we could carry on with lettings. So we have been letting our properties for the last period, and new people have been moving in, and we are really working hard to get all the properties that were empty filled. I think what I'd just like to stress is that during the lockdown period, we did offer our properties out to our local authorities to support them with homeless families. We also offered out properties to help the NHS. So, we were still working with other organisations to use our accommodation in the best way that it could be used during that period. But now we're back to letting as normal, working with the local authorities through their waiting lists, and things are normal again for us on that process.
Okay, great, thanks. This was more of a sort of development question. So when will the contractors be back on site?
So referring to the contractors that are building on new properties, a small number of these contractors kept going through the whole kind of virus lockdown period, but they were the exceptions, and they were normally where the properties were either due to finish quite soon, or properties where they were just starting out, and in the demolition phase there's less need for people to be in close contact with each other because you're mainly using large machinery. So over time, gradually, some sites have now started to open again, and by next week we're expecting all sites to be open. Contractors took a range of different approaches, from furloughing their staff to, as I say, keeping going. But now the contractors are back on site, they're operating under new rules that enforces the need to socially distance from each other, lots more facilities such as toilets on site, staggered starts and finishes, and lots more control about how operations take place to make sure that this can be done as safely as possible. That also goes for anybody visiting the sites, and obviously if we're doing lettings or sales before a property's finished, there's a lot of thought being going into that about how that can be done correctly and safely as well. So in general, most builders are back, so as far as new sites are concerned, they're being built again, although probably slightly slower than before, and if properties require any snagging to be done where they've been completed, then the staff will be available again to start to do that.
Okay, thanks. I'll ask you one more sort of question, Gareth. Some of the questions that came in were around planned maintenance. So there was things like, when will kitchens and bathrooms be replaced, and what is happening with the planned maintenance schedule?
Sure. Okay, on kitchens and bathrooms, I think they present a quite different issue to carrying out general maintenance in flats, where people might be requesting an individual repair that can be done quite quickly. If we're doing a replacement of the kitchen and bathroom, then we could be in the flat for about 10 days at least, and it's quite likely that you'll be in the centre of the flat, where using the areas that the rest rest of the residents in the flat use. So it's really difficult to do the social distancing in that situation. So we've deferred kitchens and bathrooms for the initial period until the lockdown restrictions start to ease a little bit and we can start to do things in a manner which is commensurate with government guidance. Currently, we think it can't be done to meet those guidelines. I'll give you an example of where we are doing some work, though, and what measures we're taking. So we're still replacing fire doors where they don't meet current standards. Now, this obviously only affects the area around the front door, but so we're not going into intruding into the middle of the flat and having workmen coming in there and occupying that space. So in that case, what we're doing there is we have the same team all the time. So the same two people that need to replace a fire door always work together. We don't mix teams around. So if there's less chance of infection between teams, we're making sure everybody's got correct protection equipment. We're making sure everything's washed down properly after use. We're making sure there's exclusion areas for residents, so there's no or minimal overlap between the workmen and residents. And in that scenario, we think we can carry out the work reasonably safely. So those things are going on. As I say, an individual emergency repair that's been carried on, hopefully you can do it reasonably quickly and you can do it under safe circumstances. So we'll be picking kitchens and bathrooms up later in the year. We'll be starting again with those at the highest priority. But in the meantime, if anybody's got an issue with a kitchen and bathroom that is getting towards the end of its life, that's become unusable, report it through as an individual repair, and we'll get that dealt with before we can do the mainstream replacement of it.
Okay, great, thank you. And one sort of final question on coronavirus. When are you going to open offices and receptions?
So at the minute we're looking at our office to open that up to some of our staff who need to do essential tasks. So there are some of the work that we do that we just cannot do from home. So our staff come in to do those essential tasks only. With regards to our receptions, taking a little bit of what Gareth said already, the first thing we've got to do is make sure that when we do open our reception, that it's a safe environment both for our customers but also for our staff. So we're currently working through what that means, what it would look like for ourselves and for our residents to come to see us. And also what we want to do is ask our residents, what is it they want to come into the office to do, and can we deliver that to them directly in their homes, or maybe in a different way that actually would be better, speedier and maybe more effective for them. So we're doing that work at the minute. We're just starting to evolve it, and actually be great to hear from residents about the things that they maybe feel that they want to come in to see us about, so that we could talk to them about how we can deliver that service to them now in a different way. We're also looking at our portal. Some of you may be aware that our portal isn't there currently, but that will be going back online probably within the next couple of weeks. So we'll be looking to see how we can support residents in using that as well to contact us.
I think it's just worth saying about the portal that we've taken the opportunity to improve the look and feel, and we've worked with residents to make sure it's designed in such a way that it's easy to use and people are getting the information that they need. So initially the people that have been involved, residents that have been involved, will be asked to test it and to make sure it's working well, and we'll tweak it, and then we'll publicise that more widely once we feel that it's up and running. And it gives us the opportunity then, as time goes on, to add more functionality to the portal, so that residents will be able to do more self-service online.
Okay, thanks. That leads quite nicely onto the next section, really, around different ways that we've been working and how we'll sort of move this on in the future. Some of the feedback was around sort of neighbourhood managers, people not seeing them out on estates and stuff. So how are we doing things differently, and how are neighbourhood managers and our staff keeping in touch with residents?
So obviously we've had to shift a lot of things around, and neighbourhood managers is a really good example of that. But what we have been doing is we started off by calling about 1,500 people who were on our vulnerable lists. So people maybe who were older, or people who just needed a little bit more support. So we've been contacting them and arranging with them whether they want us to contact them on a regular basis or just as a one-off, and we're continuing to do that. Also, when people are phoning into our call centre or directly to any of our staff individually, we are asking them if there's anything else that we can do for them to support them at this current time. So we've really feel that the whole medium of, you know, using the telephone or using video links like this or whatever is really important during now to try and keep that link with us and our residents. So for the neighbourhood managers, that's really what they've been doing. They've been a lot of phone calls, a lot of proactive work with our customers to see how people are, what else can we do for them. But again, if anybody's got more ideas of how they think we could support, then we're really interested to know what else we could be doing. So please let us know.
Just wanted to say a bit more about the outbound calls to those 1,500 people. That it's been really well received, and the staff themselves have really enjoyed doing it, which is great. And where people have needed practical help, then we've provided that. So things like delivering food parcels, providing shopping vouchers, and so on. And we have a tie-up with local charities to make sure that people get the help they need if they are really stuck. So, you know, for me, this is something I'd really want to continue post-coronavirus, post-lockdown, reaching out to residents more, getting to know them better, finding out what it is that people need, and making sure that we're able to facilitate that. So I think it's been a really good experience for all of us.
Okay, great, thank you. Just a couple of sort of general questions that came through as well. How can Origin support grown-up children of tenants who, due to the unbelievable house prices and rental prices, seem to have no way to leave home and are stuck, often being overcrowded?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and something that I was asked a few months ago whenever I first joined Origin, and it really rang true with me about those sort of dilemmas that the younger people have in the area. So I've been doing a piece of work over the last couple of months, which I've yet to get finished and take through my team, but really looking at whether or not we could offer a scheme, certainly as a pilot at least, but you know, looking to offer a scheme whereby we could support some of our residents, children who've grown up here in sort of in the Camden area to be housed through us in the future. So it's a piece of work, it's ongoing, it's something that really resonated with me, something I really want us to move forward with. And I don't know, Carol, if you wanted to add anything else to that.
Yeah, just to say, I'm very keen to support that, and I think obviously there'll be people listening in who don't necessarily live in Camden and will also be facing the same difficulties. I mean, I suppose the bottom line is that there isn't enough affordable housing, and we've not, as a nation, been building enough for years and years. So, you know, that's why we have a situation where we've got younger people who can't afford to rent or to buy. So we're doing our bit. So we have around 1,100 homes in our development pipeline, and we want to make sure that we do as much as possible to provide new homes. Generally speaking, they're allocated to local authority nominees, because we rely on the local authority to make the assessments around need. And they've got statutory responsibilities to meet as well, particularly for those who are homeless. So we are doing as much as we can to increase our capacity to build new homes, which means, you know, because of the grant availability being relatively low, to provide these affordable homes, we need to build for sale and do some commercial activity to create a profit that we can reinvest, and make sure that we can maximise the number of homes that we build. So you know, I think for us, our responsibilities are severalfold, really. One is to make sure that we're, if we can, we're making our own stock available to meet people's housing needs, that we help individuals to find solutions to their housing problems, and that might be through things like mutual exchange. We do support residents with that, that we contribute to the supply of affordable homes, and also that we use our influence through our networks to lobby government for more investment in social housing. So I think all those things are really important.
Okay, great, thank you. So my final question was, when can I have an online account, which we've talked about. So that is pretty much all the questions, or most, you know, that covers the themes that came through. Is there anything anyone would like to sort of add, or?
So I know, Julie, from our conversation that there are a lot of questions about people's individual concerns and also about things that were going on their estate. So we will be making sure through Carol's team that everyone has a response. I think most people who raise those questions have left the contact details, so you will hear from us as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you to everyone who sent all of their questions in.
Thank you. It's been good to
Thank
talk.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to everybody that's taken the time to ask us those questions. I think, as Julie may have said on the last podcast, we are going to be running these monthly. So if you didn't get a chance to submit your question this time around, then there will be future opportunities. So thank you to everybody.
If you'd like to get in contact with us about anything that's been discussed today in our Q&A, please call the number on the screen, email enquiries@originhousing.org.uk, or use our contact form on our website in the Contact Us section.